Hi, it's Matt Thomas here from King League. I'm back on Sonic Academy and I've got this thing. What's that then? Oh, interesting, eh? Yeah, well, it's from Novation. It's a little monosynthy thing. Is it a bass station, you're saying? Is it a bass station? I'll hold it still, shall I? It's an AFX station. What's an AFX station? Well, and it's got a purple backside. And in that respect, the AFX station is quite similar to a baboon, but in no others. So yeah, the AFX station, it's been an exciting thing on the internet, hasn't it, eh? People who love it, people who are going, really? Because the AFX mode was added to the base station as a nice upgrade a few months back, or some months back. And now we've got a brand new synth with it front and centre, but it is the same thing. So if you've got the base station and the AFX mode already, then you've got this synth, but yours looks different. This one, however, has the whole thing rejigged, and the front panel then blazoned with a lovely Aphex Twin logo, and most importantly, all those extra functions now actually are explained on the front panel. You've got to pull out a manual all the time. So what we've got then is Novation's Base Station 2 remixed by Aphex Twin. The question is, will that be enough to turn you into Aphex Twin and create his sounds and his moods and his music? I mean, the curious thing is, of course, that if it was Aphex Twin himself who got this, he would currently be trying to sort of pour ketchup into the headphone socket and reprogram the CPU in Swahili. So I can't necessarily promise I'm going to go to the same lengths he would, but let's have a fiddle.
Hello? No! No more interviews, ever!
Oh, fuck. I'm gonna have to read the manual. We're going to finish by looking at how I made some of those Aphex Twin flavoured tracks. To do that, we're going to need the following: an AFX station, Ableton or a similar DAW, Valhalla Supermassive, a strobe light and a bikini. Okay, so hopefully you're there with your bra on if you feel the need. I've decided to keep mine under my jumper just for purposes of your eyes. So what I've done here is I'll show you how I made the kind of ambient piece. And I've done that really in a very simple way using just 2 tracks. And so I'll show you how that's done now. So the first question is, how do you make ambient music on a monosynth? Well, luckily I haven't got to, because the AFX station has got a duophonic mode. Most ambient stuff, while you could make it with just a single note droning away, that's not really how the majority of it operates. You do need at least 2 notes to create like chord changes and stuff, no matter how slowly they happen. So I wanted a nice wavering old analog sounding patch, something duophonic that I could make chordal stuff with. I started to flip through the presets, and obviously I went through the whole lot, and I won't make you sit through them all, but when I got to the 70s, I found this thing. And that's just pretty much exactly what I'm after. Now I want to make it a bit more interesting than that, so to do that I'm going to mess with the pitch of oscillator 1. I'm going to mess with the LFO that's dedicated to that pitch here. I'm going to put that onto sample and hold, basically a random setting. Rather than just wobbling away like a nice vibrato, we're going to get some kind of unexpected pitch changes. probably a bit more than I want. I'll just take that depth down. You can hear occasionally it's just slightly flattening or sharpening some of those notes, creating a bit of a detune between these oscillators. Even though they're playing separate notes, you can sort of hear that detune happening. I'm also going to have a quick mess with the filter LFO as well. There you go again, nothing too dramatic, but just a bit of movement. It's not really a huge difference, but these little tiny changes, they mean that the sound occasionally does something unexpected, and that kind of brings it back to your ear again. So, a riff. I had a play and I came up with something which basically goes like this. As you can see, I played it with a few little accidental, intentional stumbles there, like little kind of trills and things. And what that means, instead of it just going, go. Now, obviously, too many, it starts to get a little bit irritating. If you play a few of these slight jumps in, because it's a duophonic synth, it's not got unlimited voices, so it's going to start jumping between them. Creates little glitchy moments like this. And that's more interesting to my ears than... So I played a bunch of these in and I put them down as audio, went through them and edited out some of the variations that were getting a bit too far from the original idea, because I wanted something quite repetitive just with small changes. So once I got that repeating pattern, it sounds a bit like this. I'm actually really quite happy with that for a single part. That's already kind of nailing the kind of mood I'm after. It is, of course, using the whole of the AFX Station. So what I want to do now, if I was writing a track myself, I would sit here now and write about another 9 intricate, competing, conflicting, interweaving parts that would confuse me to death, and I'd spend the next 3 weeks trying to make sense out of them. I decided not to do that. I thought I'd do something really simple instead, and what I did was this. I just got the overlay, switched it on. Okay, run overlay 0. If I press play now, we still get the same part. If I move on to the next overlay, we can get a lot of quite ear-bleeding, noisy complexity off that same MIDI part. It's still going ba-da-da-da. But of course, it's like on these overlay sounds now. Okay, again, maybe a little crazy. Maybe, but not a winner. Oh, that's going to fly for me all day long. Okay, so putting that next to the original synth part. Which I am absolutely happy with all day long, to be honest. Now, on listening through that, there is a couple of notes in there that, well, there's one particular note, the one that goes dum-duh, and kind of really defeats the key of the pad part. I'm not really happy with that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch that over. So I'm going to quickly flick through what we've got on this overlay. Oh, that kicks all kinds of good, isn't it? So I'm going to try and just change that note in the MIDI. Okay, I think it's that guy there. So. Let's try taking him down. Yeah, that's the one I'm after. Okay, so there we go. We've got two simple parts playing. We've got the pad and we've got the overlay. And I've put the overlay down with a little bit of automation, so the sounds occasionally change a little over the 8 repeats here. But basically it's just the same 2 bars round and round. So to very quickly turn this into something that sounds halfway mixed, and I'm not going to spend ages on this because that isn't the point. It's just to quickly throw something up which gives us that Aphex Twin feel. I'm going to put a bunch of warm, low, mid into the pad sound. Okay, so I've used a very simple, straightforward channel EQ from the Ableton library there. The pad is going to need some space. Now for that, I'm going to use a free plugin you can get yourself, the Valhalla Supermassive. Stick that on the return. Now I'm using it on a return, so I want mix 100%. I'm just going to use the original preset here, see how that sounds first of all. So that's a lovely sounding delay and reverb. I'm using this because the Supermassive is kind of tapping into the design ethic of a bunch of rack mount gear from the sort of the early 80s, when digital delay stuff and analog delay stuff, there was kind of a crossover period, and you get these interesting, they're still really expensive today, they're like, a couple of grand to get one of the originals. These things that are a mixture of a delay and a reverb, and this Supermassive really catches that particular sound at a moment in time. So I've made the feedback longer. I'm going to make this warp. That just basically creates a little bit of movement in the delay and the reverb. Okay, that is pretty nice sounding. Right, and we'll do the same thing now with the overlay part. So first thing I want to do is I want to compress that. I'll use the Ableton library again. Let's get dynamics, glue compressor. The loud kind of kicky bass end stuff is pretty punchy compared to the quieter sort of wispy kind of stuff. So I just want to create a little less range so that it all punches out a bit stronger. So the way to do that is to bring the threshold down until you see the needle here. The needle shows when the compressor is turning stuff down. So we want the threshold at a point where that needle is moving down on the loud stuff, but isn't moving much on the quiet stuff, and then we'll just turn it back up again. So okay, so it's just twitching now. That's about right there. You can see on the louder sounds we're getting about 5 dB of gain reduction. But on the quieter stuff it's not really moving. Okay, so I'm going to now adjust the makeup so that we get whether the compressor is on or off. Okay, so the makeup's too high. You can hear it's a bit loud there compared to the bypass state. So on, bypass, still a bit brighter. So let's take the makeup back down to about 7. Okay, take it down a touch more. So there we go. That's going to be roughly in the area. A little brighter, but that's fine. And I want this to bite out a little. So a soft clip on as well. Hear that sort of how loud that is, and I'll take it with the compressor off. So it's quite a bit quieter. So all the glue is really doing is bringing up some of the quieter parts of that overlay line. I want to put a reverb delay, another one. Well, a reverb is what it is. On the new Ableton, I'm using 11 here. There is a thing called hybrid reverb, this guy here, which uses two reverbs at once. You get an impulse response, which is like a sort of sample of a real space, and an algorithmic reverb, like the old 90s lexicons, things which use maths to work out a convincing copy of a reverb. You get two in the same effect, and you can blend between them. So I'm going to pull in, as a nice preset, I don't want like some big echoey thing, I just want to put a bit of sound and weirdness on that, that overlay line. So the spatial room, okay, that's much bigger than I want, so I'll pull the decay down. Okay, I'll bring the dry wet back down as well because it's quite wet. Okay, that's all cool. I want to, there's a blend here, as I say, between the convolution reverb and the algorithm reverb, so I'm going to just push this more to the convolution side. Because we've got like a convolution of an early reflection, a very, very small, short sound here. So we've got the blend of this, and on this side we've got the algorithm reverb, which is these controls, yeah? So I'm going to favour the really short convolution one. There's a bit of that longer stuff. And then really handy on this plugin, we have this feedback setting here, right? If I turn this up, we simply get a short, ringy delay loop. And I can control the length of that delay with this here. So that very short ringy delay is a classic electro reference really in terms of the sound, and that kind of thing is shot right through all this particular kind. As I say, there's all kinds of Aphex Twin music, but this particular sort of retro analog stuff, he's often really zeroing in on some of the early electro records. So bringing that in just gives it some of that flavour. Okay, let's put the two together. Okay, to finish, just because we're going to get a quick fat copy of this track going, we'll throw a glue compressor on the master. It's not a particularly sort of serious mastering compression, but I'm just after a fast result here. I'll bring the threshold down to about -6, put the soft clip on so we don't go over. So without that, a bit quieter. And there you go, simple as that. We've got a nice 2-track Aphex Twin flavor tune. I mean, you could say it's more Boards of Canada, and I wouldn't really fight you over it because it kind of is a little more that vibe. But either way, we've got really nice proto-early electronic ambient vibes using the AFX Station, just 2 instances, simply a pad, an overlay patch, and that's it.